Welcome back. I'm going to talk a little bit about a story that caught my interest, and the first thing that you're going to probably ask yourself is, why on earth are you talking about Surly Brewing, Todd? Well, here's why. In recent news, the Surly Brewing Company out of Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minneapolis in particular, announced that it's closing. Now, it's not closing its brewery altogether, it's closing its event center slash retail shop slash restaurant. And the stated reason is because of COVID-19. Now, they're not saying that they've had a massive outbreak of staff and others who have contracted COVID-19 and gotten deathly ill and suffered from this. What they're saying is that the environment brought about by COVID-19 has caused them to rethink how they do business. Now, I'm paraphrasing a longer article that was written about them. As it says, in a COVID-19 world, a business that is set up and designed to seat 1,800 or more people just doesn't function that way anymore. So they've decided to close. Now, they're closing their doors officially on November 2nd. And if my math serves me well, my calendar serves me well, November 2nd is the day before the election. I'm not going to comment. But they are closing. They have announced this, and they've announced that this has been in the works for quite some time. Implication going back to June when they reopened for limited service after Governor Walz allowed, by gracious fiat, all businesses to open back up to some degree or another here in the state of Minnesota. Now, and this is, as far as I'm concerned, people can deny it all they want, but along with them announcing, because the story broke on them closing, broke about 11 hours ago through the Star Tribune, Minneapolis paper. I don't know how else to address this other than to say I'm not buying it 100%. I do believe that they're suffering from the governor's overreach, from the governor's tyrannical, despotic crackdown on business here in the state of Minnesota. I've made no bones about how I feel about that. But they're closing. They're blaming COVID. However, yesterday, their staff announced that they're unionizing. One of the reasons that they're unionizing is because the business isn't paying them enough. They're not making enough money from a business that's struggling to keep its retail and food service endeavors open. And they're also complaining that they're not feeling safe and that they don't have adequate protection from COVID-19. I'm going to read a really brief article that was published on CBS in Minnesota. Service workers and kitchen staff at Surly Brewing's popular Minneapolis beer hall are moving to unionize, citing concerns over health and pay. In a statement Monday, a group calling themselves Unite Surly Workers informed their management at the beer hall and connected pizzeria of their intent to unionize. In a time of uncertainty, our demands include open conversations and mutual transparency, the statement said. As dedicated employees, we deserve a say in changes that affect our compensation, health insurance, and employment. This group is seeking to unionize as part of Unite Here, Local 17, a Twin Cities group that represents about 6,000 workers in hotels, restaurants, and convention centers. In response to the announcement, Surly Brewing tweeted a statement saying that they're working to determine the next steps in the process. Unite Surly Workers says the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated the issues workers are facing. Since the outbreak, they say the management has misled them about the distribution of a new service charge and the availability of benefits to employees returning to work following the indoor dining shutdown. The Surly service workers are not alone in their push to unionize during the pandemic. Workers at Tattersall Distilling and Spy House Coffee have also organized. Now, I'm going to take Surly, for the most part, on face value, in that, and believe that they are not shutting down strictly to stifle the union or organization of labor at the brewery, or excuse me, at the restaurant, at the beer hall, and the retail outlet. But here's the thing: I don't care if that is why. More power to them. Go for it, Surly Brewing. And here's why. Businesses are not obligated to exponentially increase the amount of money that they pay their staff just because they may or may not be making money. And what I want to be perfectly clear here is that I believe a business should compensate their employees according to the amount of labor and productivity that those employees can provide. What the employees are saying is, we don't think you're paying us enough based on the fact that you've created a surcharge, and we want more of that. The employees haven't offered anything. They haven't said why they're deserving of more money. They haven't said anything about what value that they bring to the table. They're just demanding more money simply for the fact that they're employees. Now, in some cases, unionization, organizing, has been a positive for employees, staff across the United States and across the world. By and large, most unions have outlived their usefulness. And in a day and age where we see that people are screaming and hollering, raising Cain, screaming bloody murder, that law enforcement should not be allowed to have a union to protect them. People are losing their ever-loving minds over places like Surly Brewing closing, and I've heard and read comments from people that are quite critical of Surly doing this. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you don't think people in law enforcement should have a union to protect them, no one should have a union to protect them. Teachers should not have a union to protect them. Nurses should not have a union to protect them. Auto workers should not have a union to protect them. Period. If you want to take away union protection from one group of people in a career field, or in a particular career field, then you should take it away from everybody. End of story. Everyone. That's it. All of them. That's all there is to it. So, while I believe that the owners of Surly Brewing in the Twin Cities genuinely are saying to themselves, we can't afford to keep this going, and by all reports, we're talking $750,000 right now. We're not even to the end of the year that they're going to be behind. And now their staff want to unionize. And what that means is that they're going to demand more money, they're going to demand more benefits, and they're going to demand more labor-intensive and cost-intensive compensation and equivocation from the owners of Surly Brewing. which means that that $750,000 that Surly Brewing is already behind, or actually not gaining, that they're going to lose, is going to increase exponentially because of the demands from the union. And that's not okay, period. Now, what does this have to do with the Constitution? What does this have to do with COVID-19? What does this have to do with government? Surly Brewing has found itself in the position that it's in because our governor is destroying small business and the economy in the United States. I don't care who you are. I shouldn't say in the United States. I should say in Minnesota. So I don't care who you are. There's no way, if you're in your right mind, that you can say that business, especially privately owned, small, independent business owners, aren't being destroyed in the state of Minnesota. All you need to do is look in the business section. Open up any newspaper in the state of Minnesota that's reporting reasonably. Turn on the news, whether it be AM or FM radio, whether it be a local TV station or something else along those lines, and just listen and hear how many businesses in the state of Minnesota are closing. That's because our governor has overreacted. That's because our governor has taken to himself the reins of the economy. And not only is he destroying a surplus, which a state should never have a surplus of money, period. The state should never be allowed to operate in a surplus. The state should never have money sitting around waiting to be used on something. That's how you end up with a $7 million cold storage building to hold all the dead bodies that aren't being produced. We have a governor and his staff who have single-handedly devastated $1 billion plus budget windfall in the state of Minnesota. And now they're working to destroy the economy of the state of Minnesota because rocks and cows just don't matter. And so now Surly, a very popular brewery in the state of Minnesota, is suffering because of this. For what? Why? To what end? To what cause? And the employees of Surly are piling on because when a group unionizes, the first thing that happens are the wages go up. With no cause, with no added benefit to the employer. If you are a reader, if you're not a reader, if you can listen, you need to read or listen to Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. You must check out that book because she addresses much of this same content in her pivotal I don't know how else it's pivotal. It's her magnum opus. It is the work of her life. She addresses things like this. This is going to be just one of hundreds of more if this state continues down the road it's going. And our governor is not helping. He's making it worse. In fact, this is happening because of the decisions that our governor has made. And it's happening because in the House and the Senate in the state of Minnesota, we do not have any people with enough of a spine to stand up to the governor. There are a few that are trying, but everybody else is spineless. This has got to stop, or this state's never coming back. Sic semper tyrannis. Thus always to tyrants. If you don't remember that, you're going to get a lot more of this.